This is Glasgow, city of 1 million souls. Glasgow, once a huddle of hamlets round the Cathedral Church of Kentigern. Now the grey anvil of Scotland on which the hammers of native industry have rung through long centuries of progress. Glasgow, once the dear green place of the Mollendiner monks, now the third largest city in the United Kingdom, straddling 50 square miles of the Strath of Clyde. A maritime city, with its lines of communication reaching out across the 7 seas to the 4 corners of the world. A proud city, too, with its great university high up on Gilmore Hill, representing 500 years of learning. And beneath it, in the green valley of the Kelvin, the art galleries and museum, a shop window for the rich treasures of many lands and many people. Further down still, the impatient Kelvin hurries over its stone weir in its urgent race to creep under the sheltering skirts of old Mother Clyde, Glasgow's dark river of work and wealth, of want and woe. Here the sons of Glasgow build their mighty ships, and from here they go down to the sea in them to bring home the rich harvests of the earth. Climb the hill from the dark and noisy river, and not a mile away you're in another world. These Victorian terraces, once the homes of Glasgow's elite, are now mostly occupied by the office staffs of big business. They stand as a monument to a way of life that is gone forever. There may be little about these respectable houses to call up rhapsodies in the heart of poet or painter, but they're as familiar to the face of this old grey city as a stamp on a letter. The people who lived in them were once the envy of their fellow citizens. As they set out for work or enjoyment in their carriages, behind high stepping horses, they carried with them some of the solid, enduring qualities of the walls that sheltered them. Across the river, on the other side of the city, the tenement dwellers live still in 4-story monoliths that have endured the wear and tear of wind and rain through many generations of family life. But many of Glasgow's 1 million souls live in houses built over 100 years ago to absorb the hordes of country folk drawn to the city by the lure of the factories, the shipyards, and the mills. Children play in a derelict battleground of broken-down wash houses. Behind them, their homes, crumbling buildings that make only the crudest provision for hygiene. For too long, daily life has been a fight against overcrowding, sickness, disease, and death. In places like this, a window box expresses the challenge of the human spirit against all that is ugly and squalid. The people behind this window have created a home in the heart of a hovel. For years they have held out bravely, and now the long siege is nearly over. In this one-room house, the liberation is celebrated. Born in this building, they're glad to be leaving it at last, but there is a sadness too in parting from old neighbours. For very soon these folk will be a war to bide a war, each to his or her own place in the scheme of a new and better Glasgow. To these two, the uncertain future is just beginning to unfold like a forgotten dream coming true. For over half a century they have lived, loved, laughed, and sorrowed in this Gorbals tenement. From this dark, decaying street, they have launched their children into the world. And through all the years, they have dreamed of having a window that looked out on a tree and a bit of grass. To them, tomorrow will seem like beginning life all over again. The farewell tea, looking after the VIPs. How many sleepless nights have she and her husband spent worrying over the health of their growing bairns? How often have they longed for a bathroom, a modern kitchen, bedrooms for the children, and fresh, clean air for them to breathe? Tomorrow, these young parents will be like bairns themselves, tasting the joy of a Christmas morning. And what about her, sitting there quietly, smiling to herself, All she has wanted for years now has been a door she can shut on the world. She can hardly remember a time when she wasn't the stranger in some other person's home. Half her leisure life has been spent as a fugitive from noise in public libraries, art galleries, and museums. Little wonder that she smiles to herself at the promise of peace and independence in a place of her own. Ah, here is one whose needs are simple. The warmth of mother love, the care and protection of a home, and a place to play with his bricks. His ambition to build and build and build and build and build until, whoops, down they come. And down, too, comes close on a century of domestic history. These old stones, so rudely and suddenly tumbled, have sheltered generations of Glaswegians in good times and bad. They have rung with the laughter of children and groaned with the loneliness of the aged. Now they must go, and not stone by stone as in the old careful days of demolition, but urgently pulled and tumbled over by men impatient to clear a space and start anew. We have left the battleground now and moved to base headquarters, the Housing Committee's room in the city chambers. Here on the table are the blueprints of the future, the result of a long and protracted campaign which began in the glow of victory after the First World War with the grand resounding slogans, "Homes for Heroes" and "Every man his garden and his own front door." Homes like those in Moss Park were built in the first years of peace to meet the needs of people who had grown tired of tenement life. It was an age of ideals. A victorious nation owed its tired warriors a new life. Victoria's city owed its people new homes. They were built, and they covered a lot of land. Moss Park, Greenhead, Carntine grew and spread. In Knightswood, a whole new town sprawled over land that had been farmed for centuries. Precious acres of arable and pasture land disappeared under streets and pavements. The supply of new houses increased, but the demand seemed insatiable. As the 20s and 30s passed and more of the green land was swallowed up, it became evident that Glasgow must stop spreading and devouring. The time had come to tear up that no tenements resolution of 1934 and start building flats with up-to-date amenities, communal gardens and greens. Then came the Second World War and new restrictions on building. By 1945, a serious problem had become critical. The slums must go, the people be rehoused, but how and where? Here is one part of the answer. For two elderly people, a new beginning, a new dimension of living. This quiet corner of Glasgow, with its trees and lawns, shows one of the ways in which the city is providing for its elderly people a sanctuary in which they can carry the best of the past into the warmth and light of the future. The cottages of this small community won a Festival of Britain award. The new boy and girl are welcome to their future home. Any fears they may have had that this last move was out of the tide and onto the beach are swept away in the full flood of their welcome. They have joined a happy, lively community. We laid a camera ambush for this happy citizen coming home from work. And for the first time in all her adult life, she is really coming home. Not to a noisy corner in some other person's house, but to her own home, where she can shut out the world. Where she can sit and read, watch her television, listen to a record player, or just close her eyes and enjoy being alone. After years of living in lodgings, even the simplest chore in your own kitchen can be a thrill. And a moment before a mirror in a bedroom is a luxury that can only be appreciated by those who for years have had to share such moments with strangers. Behind another door are those young parents who spent so many sleepless nights worrying over the health of their children. In this house, with all its modern amenities, the mother can care for her bairns as she's always wanted to. She's no longer haunted by the fear that they may have wandered away to some traffic-filled street, or that they're breathing germs of disease in a refuse-littered back court. When they come into this house from play, she has hot water on tap to wash away the healthy dirt they've collected. Now there is room to live. No longer are all their possessions cluttered together in one apartment. Later, the children will go to bed in their own rooms. By day, from her Moss Heights balcony, the mother can see and hear her children at play. These platted houses are solving another part of the vast problem of Glasgow's underhoused thousands. But as the city grows and expansion reaches its limits, other and more drastic measures are necessary to prevent Glasgow bursting at the seams. So out go the planners into the highways and byways to seek sites for new towns that will accommodate Glasgow's overspill population. This quiet little village of East Kilbride wakened one morning to find that, on paper, it had grown into a town covering many acres of land. Here, and in other areas like Cumbernauld and Johnston, many ex-Glaswegians are making new homes, striking new routes, and forging new communities. Nearer home, Glasgow is reaching out to the perimeter of her expansion. Under the blades of the bulldozers, the rolling farmlands of Renfrewshire and Lanarkshire have been planed down to cradle the new communities of Castlemilk, Easterhouse, and many others. Here, under the hands of the builders, the walls of a new Glasgow are rising, and soon there will be another pilgrimage of covered vans bringing escapees from the dark tenement areas of the inner city to the sunlight and healthy living of outer Glasgow. And as the walls grow up, these tilers prepare roofs for the heads of the new invaders. Healthy bodies, to make good citizens, must be tenanted by active and well-informed minds. Striking this necessary balance is a problem which Glasgow is facing and solving with bright new schools. These well-designed buildings, with their attractive surroundings and up-to-date equipment, are making education a pleasant preparation for the responsibilities of adult life. And here is a history lesson in 3 dimensions. Crookston Castle, surrounded today by the work of the 20th century builders. And for this fleeting, happy moment of a summer's day in childhood, she's the queen of the castle. A handful of miles away, there sits another queen in her castle. At the opposite seasons of life, they share the same moment of triumph. Meanwhile, the queen of many castles visits her Gorbal subjects in their tenement homes. For a few hours, the dark, narrow streets glow with the brilliant colors of many flags. The grey old buildings have broken out in a rash of bunting. Even the sunshine shoulders away through the smoke and cloud of the grey city to lighten up this day of ceremonial history. Looking at these people with their waving flags and smiling faces, it's hard to believe that this is indeed the Gorbals of Glasgow, the most talked about district in the whole of Britain. Imagination has built its own composite picture of Gorbals based on sensational reports of minority behavior. Here, in this sunny street, where a queen walks and talks with her people, is a face of Gorbals that the world seldom sees. As yet another relic of the past trembles at the pull of the demolishers, sways like a drunken man, and crumbles to the ground in a cloud of dust, the Queen and her consort are told exactly what is happening in Glasgow's relentless war against slum conditions. They are told what is being done to transform scenes of desolation and decay like this to this, and this to this. These houses won a Saltire Award for design. Other corporation houses and various parts of the city have won Festival of Britain awards and other Saltire awards. But this is only one part of the great saga of housing and rehousing which has been going on in Glasgow for over 40 years. Since the end of the First World War, new houses have been built for 119,000 families. Glasgow has a proud record in rehousing, a record unsurpassed by any local authority in Britain, if not in Europe. Today, that programme is costing approximately £15 million each year. Of that sum, about half goes on new building. A necessary outlay, because this is not just a building project, but the culmination of almost half a century of war against dirt, disease, and human degradation. These houses, with their modern facilities, are the victorious battlefields of that war. Since 1945, 62,000 families have turned their backs on the old tenement life of the past and now live in happy communities. And in the next year, it is estimated that another 2,500 houses will be built for escapees from the conditions of last century. Many of them will be housed in huge modern blocks, like these multi-story flats which tower over the Royston district of the city. They combine every comfort of modern living with a tremendous saving in ground space. And now, back across the river to Gorbals. Not long ago, this huge plot of earth was covered by broken and condemned houses. Today, it is the cradle of the new Gorbals, another experiment in better living. Gorbals turns its scarred face to the dawn of a fairer and finer future, as Her Majesty the Queen unveils a foundation stone. The tumult and the shouting dies. The captains and the kings depart. But behind them they leave the memory of a great day in Glasgow. For this is the day of a second front against the insidious enemies of a free and happy society. The beachheads have been established, the order is advance. Today the bulldozers, tomorrow the builders. Today the dust of the past, tomorrow the soaring phoenix of the future as Glasgow climbs to the skies and to a better way of life for her children. The captains and the kings depart. There down the long, long road of today and tomorrow goes a captain and his queen. To where? To what? Follow them and see. Follow them closely, for these are the very important people of this royal day of history. Follow them into the future. Then indeed can Glasgow wear the Festival of Britain and Saltire Awards with all the pride of Mungo's medals.